What is up, Knicks Nation? Salute, salute. The streets are buzzing. Today, coming at you live right now, as we heard word from Adrian Wojnarowski that the New York Knicks are protesting last night's result, the call that sent the game basically to the Houston Rockets. We know all about it. It's had the world talking. And now, confirmation that the New York Knicks will be protesting the result, right? The league last 2-minute report came out and it revealed that the NBA and the officials have said that it was an incorrect call. And over to the New York Knicks now. And I think they've done the right thing with this situation. We'll see what comes of it, man. But I'd love to get your thoughts. Woj is saying that, the hope is that the overtime minutes could be potentially replayed as well, the overtime period, if the Knicks protest, were to be successful. And obviously he's saying as well the Knicks and the Rockets aren't scheduled to play again this season, but the hope would be to win the protest and to play an overtime period to complete the game. Only 6 protests in league history have been upheld, but it's the right thing. Obviously, and we go back, we say that, the NBA, Ed Malloy obviously came out straight after the game, did not even wait for the last 2-minute report, to confirm that referee Jason Goebel's call was incorrect. The contact that Jalen Brunson made was inconsequential, and it was basically the wrong call, to make at that time. And then we got the last 2-minute report just now. It was later than it usually is, man. The league had to work through it. Obviously, there was a lot there. We know the well-documented free throw discrepancy throughout the game as well. That hasn't really been addressed so much, fam. 12 free throws to the 33 for the Houston Rockets, right? We've got the chat pumping now. Salute guys coming through the building. Let's get your reactions. I'll give you mine. We had some news obviously for tomorrow too. Dante DiVincenzo is questionable. It looks like maybe Alec Burks might get a starting nod. And Isaiah Hartenstein continues to be, questionable. But yeah, the main breaking news right now, Adrian Wojnarowski has reported that the Knicks have done the right thing, I think, and filed this protest. I think it goes beyond what we see as well on the surface, for the Knicks to do this. Dare I say James Dolan might have been involved. He might have needed to sign off on it. And we know his standing with the league right now. We had the players, tweet out their frustration. Nasty work, said Precious Achua. Josh Hart chimed in as well, right? First Take, ESPN, NBA fans and media alike. There've not been too many protests. As we know, Tibbs tried to avoid, the fine, but obviously we knew how they felt, deep inside. And all it took was the NBA to admit that they were wrong on that call. Regardless of the minute contacts, right? You don't call a foul on a last-second heave, right? And if you want to call it this time, then you need to call it every single time, right? Because on most final buzzer-beating heaves, you could find minute contact, right? But it never gets called. Right? Last night was an absolute joke. They decided to, I don't know what they were thinking at the time. Jason Goebel was also, we found, was the person behind the infamous last season LeBron James, Jason Tatum, hand knockdown going up for the layup. That guy, people have been tweeting some stuff on his background, but we're not going to get into that, right? The nitty gritty is that we hope that this game can be replayed, right? And it would be rightfully so. I think that would be the just result. We know the NBA's gone and said it was the incorrect call. The last 2-minute report confirms it. There's a whole lot of evidence that James Dolan and the New York Knicks, Tom Thibodeau, are going to put together their case for this protest. which they have already commenced the process, right? 12 free throws to 33, as well as this final call, man. The icing on the cake was ridiculous. I tweeted out, yeah, the Knicks have got to stand on business. Woj also says the NBA has 48 hours to file. The NBA teams have the 48 hours to file a protest with the league office and 5 days to provide the evidence of the protested action. After that, league officials will have 5 more days to make a decision. Now, we don't play the Rockets again, but we'll shout out a Knicks fan, Zach Blatter, on Twitter X, says the Knicks don't play the Rockets, but they do go to Texas to play the Spurs on what would be March 29. So, should we be successful, maybe we can replay this overtime period later. I tell you what, man, if it is approved, it would be certainly groundbreaking, and the New York Knicks are the kind of franchise to do that, right? There's the case. There's the NBA already, going on record now to say that it was incorrect. What are you guys thinking? Salute Travel Vibes. Peace, everybody. Joining us. Welcome in. And I hope everyone's doing well. Look, if we don't win the protest, we put it in the rear view. We move forward. Right? I'm not getting too caught up on this, but I really think it's the right decision because, hey, nothing can be lost from it, man. Why not do it? We know it was the wrong call. The NBA's gone back and said that it was the incorrect call to make. Brian Windhorst, ESPN, been covering the league for how many decades? Feels like it was a really brutal call to make, and a really, really good contest from Jalen Brunson. So, yeah, for all you people that think, why did Brunson do it? Maybe fans of other teams, maybe you dislike the Knicks, right? But the NBA's gone back and said it was the incorrect call, right? So this ain't just Knicks fans. This is way beyond that. And quite frankly, I'm a fan of the NBA first, right? Well, I'm a Knicks fan first, of course, but I'm a fan of the product, right? And the product's gotten worse and worse. And the team that we have in this product, right, only other teams could benefit, if the Knicks can win a protest. Because, human error does happen, right? Humans do make mistakes, but there should always be a procedure where, okay, let's be real, let's be civil, let's work through a process where we can get a just result, right? Even it is just playing a 5-minute overtime period, right? Because, for such a good game to be decided the way it was, that was, the bitter pill to swallow. It was, a tough situation because, the Rockets were given it all they had, and so were the shorthanded Knicks. We deserved an overtime, right? Even neutral fans watching on NBA TV or, whatever broadcast they were watching it on, fans around the world deserved an overtime period. What was such a great game as well. So yeah, as Kevin's saying, when was the last time a team protested and something came of it? Only 6 protests in league history have been upheld. So certainly, the odds will maybe be stacked against, will look like they're stacked against something, from happening. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't file the protest, right? When are the days where you just accept the incorrect decision and you move on without, going forward with some kind of action, right? And I think, this maybe goes all the way up to the top, James Dolan and the situation going on with the NBA as well. But it was an unfair result. I think we deserve an overtime. Vaughn says refs need to be held accountable. That's a whole nother topic, which we can open up to all fan bases as well. Players are accountable, for their on-court and off-court stuff. We had rulings from players, getting into off-court stuff that gets brought into the spotlight. Whatever happens to these officials where it's an incorrect call and it decided a game, it might decide playoff seeding, all of that. I mean, the consequences are just absolutely huge, man. The money involved as well in the gambling world. should this game have gone to another overtime, would have been massive as well. And I think, there needs to be a better process with this protest side, but there needs to be a better procedure with and process with NBA officials getting, reprimanded in a way. Every other job does it. Basically, they get away with it as well. And I always try to take my Knicks glasses off in terms of a game where it's decided by a singular call, because I do watch a lot of games. I have League Pass, like I said last night. I'm a fan of the game, firstly. And if this was the Wizards versus the Spurs, and I was watching live last night, and I was watching the exact same thing, but with players in another jersey, I would have perked up. I would have said, "No, that ain't right, man. That team was hard done by," and I have done so in the past. When it goes against the game and it's just team versus team in the spirit of competition, you always want, the players to decide the game, not an official. And that's one of the biggest issues Brian Windhorst has with last night, as well, as he talked about on NBA Today as well. There's videos all over the place if you haven't seen it. He said, I'm usually not someone that, puts it on the referees, because 99% of the time it's not them. This was the 1%, he said. That's the exact words of Brian Windhorst. This was the 1% where the referees did decide the game. And going back to all the games I watch, in the spirit of competition, and also what Tom Thibodeau said after the game, you just want it to be consistent. And we did not get a consistent whistle last night. We saw Taj's blocking foul called, even though he was in legal guarding position. We saw Dylan Brooks lower his shoulder, right, like NFL-like, a shoulder barrage into Jalen Brunson, who was off balance, right? I see some fools say he wasn't in legal guarding position. That doesn't matter, man. That's secondary. Doesn't mean you lower your shoulder and level the player. And I said it in the post-game. It was a non-basketball play. If you're just driving to the cup, right, and you're trying to get past your opponent, you don't purposely lower your shoulders and clear the defender out. That's not a basketball play. That's not you driving to the bucket to try to score. That's you trying to level, the defender as well. So that's the reason that was should have been called, a charge as well. So yeah, fellas, ladies and gents, getting back to the Knicks case, we have 5 days to put together, some more evidence. Dare I say the Knicks will put together some footage of other endings to games. They'll find videos where there was just as much contact, or maybe even more, on a buzzer-beating heave. Or this is what I would do anyway, and I would say, hey, there was no call on that one, man. That was a buzzer-beater heave, and there was a clear contact. And that's the biggest issue I had with it at the time, right? If you're going to call that, why don't you call it all the time, right? If you're going to say we're going to decide this game, we need to do it more regularly. But they didn't, right? Wompbag says as well, the very lopsided, and then that the call makes it look very suspicious. It gives conspiracy theories look legit. Yep. And look, they're under pressure too, because the last 2-minute report says it was incorrect, right? So where to from here? I think the only solution is to do an overtime replay. I mean, let's keep it a buck, right? What's it going to cost to just do an overtime replay, right? And we'll talk a little bit more Knicks later as well, with Julius Randle ticking all the boxes in his return, right? If we do replay this overtime later in the season, Julius will probably be back, but they might not let him play, right? It might need to be only players that were available in this game, and that opens up a can of worms, right? Or what do you guys think? Should it be open slather and let both sides field their most strongest teams, if this gets replayed at some point. Right, we're breaking new ground, basically. But I'm surprised because I really feel like this should be done more. Obviously, you don't get always the league admitting to making a mistake. You don't always get clear evidence. So I think this is a once in a maybe a generation where everything all the boxes are ticked in order for the Knicks to make a successful case. Right, we saw the free throw discrepancies. We have a lot of player testimonials, and probably reactions from unbiased media people as well. I mean, I'm cool with not just Knicks people having a say in this. We need NBA and neutralists, because nobody wants their team to lose a game this way. And as an NBA fan, I don't want any game to be decided this way as well. Right, literally on a last second heave. We'll continue shouting people out, so keep your comments coming. But another point I wanted to say, and I kept thinking about this all night, man. I was actually losing sleep over this, man. And that thought was, if the roles were reversed, right, completely, if this was at Madison Square Garden and it was Jalen Brunson rising up for a final second heave with Aaron Holiday jumping into him, what are the chances Brunson would get that call? And that tells you all you need to know in terms of this call never gets made. Right? You just don't make it. Especially if it's not egregious contact. The only buzzer-beating fouls you call if it's a player just spotting up, rising up in a normal shooting motion, and there's a clear-cut, hack of the wrist or the arm, and a foul or a tunnel or something like that. But a contortion where it's a heave, and it's a player off balance, and there's very, very minor contact, and it's inconclusive with multiple different angles, and then the NBA goes back and admits that it was incorrect, then I think you've got a serious case, man. I think the NBA definitely got this one wrong, and hopefully we have a chance to get this overtime replayed. And once again, I'll say, if it doesn't prove to be correct, nothing's lost. I think the Knicks still made the right decision. I think there's no harm in filing the protest anyway. Do it the correct way. And I think a lot of Knicks fans, deserve credit for some of their reactions as well. Some of people keeping it a buck, keeping it real, but also trying to keep it respectful to Tom Thibodeau, Jalen Brunson. I mean, they acted like true professionals, right? They're better men than me, because it would have been really tough to keep you cool. And I'm just glad we have a guy like Jalen Brunson, who's a captain, and a leader as well. He didn't buy in. He didn't get baited in, to any of the questions. And I know the reporters are just trying to do their job. They're trying to get a great quote. But I think that might bode well, across the league. The fact that Tibbs, while he did do his rant on the court, he didn't come out in the post press like Mike Brown did, and like Roy Yarkovich did. Tom Thibodeau did, keep it cordial, and we've done it the right way. We've formally submitted this protest now. What's good, Joshua? What's happening? 12 free throws to 33, twice as much free throws tells you all you need to know. I think that's a great case for us. I think in this situation as well, maybe they could do some deeper digging into the past of that referee. I think the LeBron, it don't get no bigger blown call than last season on LeBron, and the fact that was the exact same referee might help us, man. The other thing is the betting line. I don't get into all the betting, but I trust what people are putting out there. Was that there was a significant shift in the betting line, man, and the line was minus 1.5 for the Houston Rockets. They ended up winning by 2 as well. Has this ever happened before, man? 6 times. 6 protests in league history have been upheld. Dirty Dancer says the league forces terrible replay rules to avoid gambling conspiracies and instead heightens the conspiracies. Yeah. I think there's ways that they could really fine-tune a lot of this. And like all laws, there's new precedents that sometimes you win a case and it sets a brand new precedent. So wouldn't it be cool if the Knicks could force change, out of this situation as well? We might have future fan bases thanking us because, if we win a case, there's always a precedent now. Obviously there's got to be rightful evidence too. We don't want everybody just protesting, every single call. Why this is so unique, and not just speaking from a Knicks perspective, is obviously this was the final call. This was the one and only final call of the game. That basically it was a tie game. Neither side was ahead of the other team. It was the final shot. It missed, and then you bailed them out. By giving them 3 free throws. You did not even give the ball back, to the New York Knicks, even with a measly 0.3 tenths of a second left. You didn't even want to give the ball back to us, despite calling the timeout. Which is crazy. Another issue I've had with league replays on the court is this would have been totally avoided as well if Ed Malloy could have just reviewed the footage, and instead of reviewing whether how much time was left, they should have been reviewing whether it was an actual call and overturned it, then and there. You just said, look, our bad, we made an egregious error. Let's go to overtime, or even take more time. Just say, hey guys, sit down. We're gonna chop this up and look at all different angles and make sure that this was the correct call before everybody leaves. Unfortunately, that wasn't done, man. The referees just wanted to get out of there. That's the issue I've got with the NBA too. It's kind of backwards, the way they do it. When you're reviewing for the wrong thing, right? Who really cares how much time is left, right? You should have been reviewing the most important thing. Was it an actual foul or not? And I thought any time under 2 minutes, every play was reviewable, and could have been reversed. And some of the things they do is crazy throughout the game. Sometimes one referee will call, okay, out of bounds, and then the other 2 officials will come across and overrule them. So why couldn't Ed Malloy overrule Jason Goebel? He's the crew chief, right? Last I thought, the manager can overrule an employee's decision, right? So yeah, there's a lot of processes that need to be cleaned up, right? A lot of players, and NBA players draw so much scrutiny, right? Not only for their performances, for their salary, their off-court stuff. And I think the NBA and the officials kind of get out like they're squeaky clean, and we know that ain't the case because, there's stories in the past, and there's been huge errors, right? And once again, humans do make errors. It's the process involved that can correct those errors. You know what I mean? If humans make errors that decide the game, but there's all the technology in the world now, and there's processes involved that can correct that, then so be it. We should. We need a better outcome, for this. What's good, Will? Salute. On your grind at work, I salute you. If I make an error admitting, you're using the example at work. If I make an error, admitting to it is not quite enough. I actually have to fix it. Exactly, man. You said it. And no doubt, like I said, I think the Knicks will put together their best case because they've got 5 days. They've got 5 days to put more evidence together, and then the league has 5 more days to make a decision on this. Now, are the chances of us getting a replay high? Probably not. But I think out of all the cases that has a chance, this is probably one of the highest chances because the evidence is there. The last 2-minute report is out, and admittedly, it was a blown call, man. let me bring that last 2-minute report up on the screen as well so that everybody could see it. This one was posted up by Ian Begley as well. He was also reporting the Knicks will file the protest. The last 2-minute report. The NBA says Brunson legally contested Aaron Holiday's shot late in the loss in regulation. In the pool interview after the game, the crew chief Ed Malloy also said that the call was wrong. So the comment is Brunson legally contested Holiday's shot. So that tells us all we need to know. We have a case, right? He legally contested the shot. For anyone that says there was contact, it was a foul, all of that, then you're just tripping because you're against the Knicks, right? This is bigger than the Knicks versus the Rockets. As I said, as a diehard Knick, right? If this was the Wizards versus the Spurs, I would be as invested as I am now because I want a better product, right? I pour time, effort. Everybody pours money into this thing, and we don't want teams getting screwed. Really, this was a screw job. At the end of the day, I've been watching basketball a long, long time, and they don't call those fouls on a contortion heave, right? We could go back 30 different Knicks buzzer beater attempts from Carmelo Anthony to Patrick Ewing to Allen Houston, all the way to the 70s, and we could probably pick up a Knicks buzzer beater shot where he gets fouled and they don't call anything, but for some reason last night's was, that's what irked me the most. They also say Holiday released his shot before contact with Brunny and is able to return to his normal floor position. So you see, when they're able to sit on it and stew on it, they're able to make some kind of sense of the mistake that was made. Now we only hope that we could break ground and we could possibly get a fair outcome out of this outside of just an apology. Because that ain't gonna fly anymore, man. I mean, if the refs don't want players to start abusing them and fans start abusing them and that, it's like, okay, we make mistakes, but let's work out a situation where we can get a better outcome, right? And so fans can, hold the NBA officials in higher regard, right? It's things like this, like Buzzer Beater says, that just heightens the conspiracy, and makes us, okay, let's say they throw out the protest case, or let's say they throw out a 2-minute report putting out a blatant lie. That's just going to, frustrate people even more. And you don't want that because there's going to be even less respect. There's going to be more aggro and there's going to be more abuse as well, man. We're paying customers at the end of the day, man. You never treat a paying customer like they're stupid, right? You never treat anybody like they're stupid, first and foremost. If you made a mistake, you admit that was wrong and you give a fair process to an appeal. And I think hopefully that's what's happening, man. So obviously Woj got the word, CAA connections, and we're doing our thing, right? I think we'll put together a lot of different cases, maybe relating to Jason Goebel and some of the errors he's called in the past. They really wanted to get out there, man. Hart did definitely grab that board. I think, it did clatter off the rim, but straight over to Hart, timeout. But yeah, that was wild, man. What are your hopes of getting this replayed? Let us know. What are the things that you think the Knicks should put towards this protest, this case? I've said what I think. I think there's plenty of evidence, man, throughout the entire game that they had a really, really off day, or if you're more of the conspiracy theorist, it was highly motivated, right? I mean, the evidence is all there in the video. Wompbag Doodle says, as a fan base, we have to put pressure on the league. No violence, just civil disobedience. Exactly. A lot of people were asking me last night, like, what should we do? Is there anything we can do? The officials just get to continue with what they're doing with no consequence. And I said exactly what you're saying now. I said, yeah, there's not a lot we could do, but what we can do is just continue to post evidence, put pressure, keep adding them on your favorite social media, talk to other fan bases, get them to do the same thing if they're unbiased. For the people that want to, and there's plenty of haters out there, right? That's all that has to be said. Some people were dismissive of what happened, but they're just diehard fans of their team, but they're too stupid to realize that one day it's going to happen, or it's going to continue to happen to their team as well. Really, this ain't the Knicks versus other teams. This ain't the Knicks versus the Rockets. This is the Knicks versus the officials last night. The Knicks and the Rockets side was the best thing about last night. That was one of the most craziest, physical, but greatly contested NBA games of the season, right? And it was quite surprising. I wasn't, expecting the game to go that way. But the Knicks started slow, a poor first half. Were down 14, and the Rockets were physical, and that gets into sort of some of the non-calls and the bad calls, and this might affect the new challenge rule and the challenge decision making from Tibbs, moving forward now. Now we're going to get to the point where I've seen fans say Tibbs just shouldn't challenge anything anymore until to the final play. Keep the challenge. And that's unfair in itself, because we shouldn't be forced to compensate for incompetence, right? Maybe he did use that challenge on the DiVincenzo leg out. I think that was the one. But sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. But you should have confidence if there's video footage that your challenge request early is going to be successful. I would have challenged the Taj charging foul early in the game as well. I think that was really, really egregious. I mean, Mike Breen, who's someone who's always unbiased, despite being the Knicks announcer, he's, the face of the NBA announcers, and he's always keeping it a buck, right? I mean, straight away he was like, that's a clear charge. That's going to be overturned. And it wasn't. So that was crazy too. What's up, Hamilton? Salute. Dirty saying most egregious thing is Dante DiVincenzo getting an offensive foul call for a similar motion at halftime. Yeah, that was the one where you hit the leg out, I think, to the side. With calls throughout the game, like they don't have the exact outcome, but the final call, is wild, really. That's the one that decided last night. Hamilton says here, will there be a 5-minute OT game in the future as well? If the Knicks are successful with this protest, that's the aim. And I start to really feel like there's a chance because everything's building on our side. There's momentum where there's the evidence. The last 2-minute report, the NBA has said it was incorrect. The referee in question that called it made arguably the biggest mistake from last season. The crew chief, Ed Malloy, came out in support of the call being incorrect as well straight after the game. I think maybe the way the Knicks handled themselves post-game, despite, on-court stuff, I think Tibbs and Brunson kept their cool as well. Salute Nice in the building. Yep, we're buzzing. Let us know if you think this can get to the OT replay. I think that would be good. I think it would set a precedent. I'm not going to lie. I think a lot of teams would perk up. But that's the process, right? You go through it. NBA can approve, can reject, but it should be not influencing whether you go for the protest or not. I mean, if the evidence is there, why would you just sit on it and do nothing, right? I mean, basically the Knicks were robbed of a chance to play overtime. No, nobody's saying we were robbed of losing the game. We were robbed of the chance to play overtime. That's the biggest point, right? The outcome should have been in our hands, not taken out. Nick Snake says from here on out, the Knicks in the NBA history, this will be officially known as the Houston screw job. Man, there's been plenty of screw jobs in the past too. If we want to go back to the 97 playoffs with the Knicks suspensions against the Miami Heat, we had other players clear the bench as well. But yeah, a lot of the Knicks players got suspended as well. You know, the referee in question has resided in the Miami area as well. That could add to the conspiracy theories. He was also a former police officer as well in the Miami area for 13 years. And I just think the NBA officials have been poor. Right? I ain't going to attack one specific official because they've all been really poor. You know, on different days, right? It's just like different day, different referee. But the biggest thing that I agree with Tom Thibodeau is the inconsistency. That just drives people mad. It's like, what is a charge? What isn't? What is a foul on a last second heave? You're literally opening Pandora's box, which is the second I thought of that last night when the call was made. I was like, okay, are we really going to call that, man? Like, we could dig up the archives, man, from as long as the game's been alive. And, you know, you'll find a last second foul. But you're going to call that one. And look, right, sometimes, you know, if the roles were reversed, I said it, if Brunson was firing up as a normal shooting motion on a final shot and was hacked, you know, egregiously, you know, you still want a foul to be called, you know, in those instances. But what makes this one different was that there was minimal contact, which is the NBA's come out and said it. It didn't affect his normal return to floor position. Also, it was a heave. It was a final second contortion as well. You know, and there was very, very inconclusive evidence, you know, in real time, you know, to say that it was a clear foul or not. And, you know, if you're just trying to make a better product overall, simply put, if the game's tied, you just run it to overtime, right? That's what you do, man. Shout out Portugal, HP Carlos in the building. Let's get it. So, yeah, we had Richard Jefferson sounded off on the call, right? He was talking garbage as well. I didn't agree with what he was saying. But, you know, the Brian Windhorst, the Tim Bontemps, Shannon Sharp, of course, Uncle Shay. And then there was some more people. Kendrick Perkins, of course, you know, he's going to perk up. Yeah, and I think we just want a better product, man. We don't want games decided by officials. You know, it's as simple as that. Dirty says Tibbs was robbed of the opportunity to play more of his guys, 20 straight minutes. Man, there was so much to come out of last night's game. Obviously, the Knicks fought so hard, and that's what made last night's result even, you know, tougher to take. You know, we're on this crazy ride where guys are banged up, playing, you know, 40 minutes plus, giving it their all. And that's why I said, man, that some of these guys are better men than me, because, I mean, even Jalen Brunson had to be restrained. Let that sink in. This is a guy who has just maximum composure and maximum respect for the game, for the officials, right? And even before that final play, Brunson was hit so many times, and the frustrations were boiling over. That's how you know how bad it was last night. Precious Achua, how many times he had his hands up, like pleading for a call because he was hacked on the putbacks as well. That was one instance. You know, Brunson and Hart clobbered where their, you know, Hart's headband was also taken off. I mean, last night was super physical. Was definitely the most physical game that the Knicks have been in this season in terms of officiated. I mean, and Dylan Brooks, man, he's out here playing NFL. He's out here playing hockey. I didn't know you could literally just charge into a guy, right? Julius Randle's been called for fouls like that, this season as well. That goes back to the inconsistencies, man. What's good, Jam and Jet? These refs need to realize they are supposed to be transparent, not part of the outcome. Yeah, definitely, man. In the spirit of the competition, I think when the score is tied, it's a heave. If you're going to call it a foul on that, please give us consistency, because Jalen Brunson's been hit on last second heaves as well. And throughout my time watching NBA, right, that is called maybe 5%, if that, of the time or less on a last second heave. You could dig up so many videos with contact that doesn't get called. And then those refs are smart. They don't want that to settle the game. Right? It just doesn't make any sense. Man, I think it was as good as of a contest that you could ask Brunson to do. Now, people that say, why is he even putting himself in that position? Like, that's a fair question to ask. Why does Brunson even contest so hard on a final shot like that? Well, there's a couple of things, right? One, it wasn't really that far out, right? And we see, the league's changing. Players hit shots, right? The skill set of these guys has gone to another level. And then the other parts is, what if he doesn't contest? What if he just stands there and lets him fire up a shot, right? I mean, you're not supposed to be doing that either. You're supposed to still go up, right? And if you believe you can affect the outcome of the shot without hitting him and fouling him egregiously, most players still do that now. Now, he probably thought, I could really get a block as well. Don't forget, Aaron Holiday is 6 feet tall on his best day, right? When he's wearing sneakers, he's 6 feet tall. So Brunson's probably like, man, I got a really good shot at blocking this shot and making sure we go to OT as well. So yeah, you should never kind of question a competitor and say, like, why is he doing that? Right, when you've been playing your ass off for 40 minutes, for 48 minutes, and you have a chance, the adrenaline's flowing, you have a chance to will your team to victory. You're taught to just go after it, man. Leave it all out there. What's good, Jay? Again, who was in the building last night, coming through again. Adam Silver, Knicks enemy number one, man. 100% for the Knicks to do this protest, it would have come across James Dolan's desk, probably. Should we do this? Should we not? And I think, there wasn't any need for any more incentive. Put it that way. C-Dub, we got the streets buzzing. Knicks got robbed. Yep. So we got robbed of a chance to win the game, right? We weren't the team that was up. Now, that would have changed this whole dynamic, now that I think about it, fam. If the Knicks were up by 1 point, let's say the Knicks were up by 2 points, with Aaron Holiday getting fouled, going to the line, maybe missing 2 of them and hitting 1, and then the Knicks win the game, then there's no need to do any replay. But the score was tied. So, yeah, the NBA was robbed. Fans were robbed of a chance, to finish a great game. A game where the Knicks had a really good shot, at winning. I would have put it down to 50-50, right? I'm not going to sit here and say the Knicks would have beaten the Rockets in OT. I don't know that. Right? I don't know either way. All I know is it was a damn good game. It was 50-50. Brunson tied the game, right? They had no answer for him. Bogdanovic was scoring 9 points in the fourth. If Brunson was to so get doubled late in the game, I would have had confidence that he would have kicked the rock. He would have found one of the shooters out there. But obviously DiVincenzo, which we're going to talk about a little bit now. DiVincenzo was playing his heart out as well. 40 minutes plus again. Been carrying us, again, since some of the guys went down. And yeah, Devo would not have played in OT, so he was back in the locker room. It would have been Brunson, definitely Hart would have been out there, probably Alec Burks, Bogdanovic on offense, and then Precious. Or maybe Precious and Sims together if he wanted some rim protection. Now, we might have had some guys foul out. We had a couple guys on 4 fouls, 5 minutes of overtime. Now that I think about it, if the game went to overtime, the Rockets probably would have won because Jason Goebel and the referees would have continued to call the game one-sided as well. The leopard don't change its spots. The game was already, from start to end, was poorly officiated. 12 free throws to 33. That was disgusting, as well. So, look, anyone who thinks conspiracies and stuff, like, anything's possible in this day and age, right? And I think it's naive to just throw that out because the windfall, the gain that some of these people can have is generational. The amount of gambling and different kind of gambling, different kind of parlays we see are crazy. You can literally bet on a player hitting a shot at a specific part of the game in a quarter. You not only bet on the points at the end of the game, all of those things, man. There's just so much grey area where players, officials, coaches, they have so much power. They have, and when with comes power, always comes evil. You know what I mean? So it might just be one person out of thousands, but there's always that chance that somebody's crooked. You know what I mean? There's just too much to gain. And I do think it's naive to just throw it out. I mean, we've seen it in the past. Tim Donaghy, was found guilty and admitted, to doing that kind of stuff. So what's to say, it's not going to happen again? Now there is a difference though. Not every poor officiated game is crooked, right? As I said, people have bad days. Humans make mistakes, right? People at our jobs, we make errors as well. But the difference is we face consequences. There's procedures, protocols as well. The league's gotten stale with this last 2-minute report because, it was kind of groundbreaking when it happened. But like all things with the game, man, it's evolving. And we need something new. They brought in the challenge. There's always been the rule that the final 2 minutes you can review, out of bounds plays, things like that. Maybe this opens the door for, a review on things like this, where it's the final call, the final second of a game, where, okay, everybody sit down on their bench, like I said, we're going to look at this footage, and we're going to make sure this was the correct call before the guy goes to the free throw line, right? Because literally the NBA just looks like a fool, where they look at monitors for, a couple good minutes, only to say that, okay, it was a foul still, okay, shoot your free throws, game over. And then as little as 30 minutes later, you go on record to say, oh, it was the incorrect call. It's like, what were you doing before? And why couldn't we do that before that? Why couldn't we, take the time, get those people in Secaucus, whoever it is, people there in the arena, and just make sure this was correct. So, yeah, I think, I'm really happy that the Knicks have done this, right? Regardless of the outcome. I think we stand on business. We have a case. I think it was really, we drew the short stick. And we wait to see what happens, right? But, yeah, no doubt there's going to be haters. There's going to be people trying to clown the situation. But guess what? It's happened to their team, and it's going to happen again, right? These officials, they officiate every single game. So I'd like to see some support from other fan bases. Me personally, as I said, I would support a situation like this if this was the Spurs versus the Wizards or another team. Nobody wants to see a game finished that way. man. Dirty says, I don't think iHeart being out should shift the line 4 points by itself. That is the smoking gun. Yep. That's interesting too, yeah. I kind of forgot how long also DiVincenzo was out as well. But yeah, that was the start of the game. Isaiah Hartenstein being questionable. That did shift the line a lot, as you say, for those that are still trying to unpack this thing. The Knicks were clear favourites, and then, yeah, closer to the game, the Rockets became the favourites as well, just before a tip. And then, yeah, we see, the crazy discrepancy in the free throws, I don't know if someone's done the check throughout the season, but have we been on the worst end of a free throw tally? 12 to 33 sounds pretty bad. It has to be at least near the top. And it really felt like that. Like, it was so frustrating watching the game. From the calls that even were made, but were made on the wrong end, such as the Taj, charging foul, the JB blocking foul on, on a guy like Dylan Brooks, who does have a reputation as well. I mean, I don't know how you call that. By the way, that was Jason Goebel, also the guy who made the end of the game call, the incorrect call, we call it now. It was incorrect. He made the same call on Jalen Brunson blocking when Dylan Brooks basically rammed his shoulder into him like an NFL play, right? Man, that was actually the play throughout the game where I thought, you know what, it's been bad up until this point, but we're really up against it. Like, they're not afraid to show how biased they are when you see pathetic calls like that, because that was not only inconsistent, it was dangerous, it was pathetic. As I said, it wasn't even a basketball play. It was actually two motions. He kind of got in position as his normal driving position, but then he lowers the shoulder and then puts in an extra nudge with real force to get Brunson leveled as well. And then he hip checked Brunson as well, going for the board as well. So yeah, that was crazy. The free throw attempts was crazy. I mean, right now, the Knicks have a great chance to get this looked at. Standing on business. So we continue to shout you out. We'll talk about the Orlando game. We'll preview that. I'm going to refresh to see if there's any new updates. With that said, yeah, look, there's some impartial people coming out saying, yeah, nothing's going to come of it. I don't get it. And look, I understand not everyone is going to understand what this is about, but that's why we're all built differently, man. So Bobby Marks is saying, I don't see New York winning this. Opens up a slippery slope of teams protesting whenever a call is missed or made incorrectly at the end of games, but I don't blame them for trying. So extremely rare for a team to win a protest. Last time a protest was upheld was December 19, 2007. Shaquille O'Neal fouled out with 6 fouls, and he only had 5. Atlanta-Miami played the last 51 seconds of OT from when O'Neal fouled out. Okay, that's really interesting, man. I'm learning something all the time. So I'll just post that in the chat as well. So that was Bobby Mark. So yeah, that was a protest that was won 2007, December 19, when Shaq, they fouled him out, but he only had 5 fouls. So Miami, Atlanta replayed the last 51 seconds. So it's been done before. So 100% the Knicks needed to do this, right? Even if there's clear evidence, which was the case with the Shaquille O'Neal one back in 2007, man. How do you get that wrong? Obviously, that was some bad record keeping. Obviously, we don't have the same technology as well. Now, Bobby Marks is also saying the league will likely point to the New York Knicks having the ability to challenge the play and reverse the call. Unfortunately, they already used the challenge. It is extremely rare to see a team winning a protest based on human error. But again, don't blame us for trying. It's the right thing. The evidence is there. Let's weigh in. Everyone's weighing in right now. Alan Hahn saying, would be interesting to see in the rare and unlikely result they win the appeal, how teams would get together to play the 5 minutes of overtime. End of March, team is in San Antonio, but a tight travel schedule there as well. The Sixers have officially announced the signing of Kyle Lowry as well. That's not a difference maker for me. So, look, there's a lot of evidence, and I think based on the free throw discrepancy, based on the past of that referee, but Bobby Marks does make that point about the challenge. But in the spirit of the game, right, a challenge is there for specific things, which the Knicks use that challenge. But it's bad form to, hold that against the Knicks based on errors that their own officials are making. Right, that's crazy. In fact, that's really bad to say that the Knicks, you didn't have a challenge, right? It's your fault, right? Well, if your referees didn't make the incorrect call, we wouldn't need the challenge, man. That's like me, running a 7-Eleven, and I got a spillage right in front of the door, right? And a customer slips over, hurts themselves, and I'm like, oh, you should have watched out for it, right? That's crazy. You can't be doing that, right? So I think LB says it, man. LB So Wavy says, for the people that don't understand this, watch the game and not the highlights. Yeah, absolutely, man. I do think some tweaking can be done to the challenge rule as well. I think they did make the right move by, giving another challenge if the first challenge was correct. I think that made a lot of sense, based on the year prior. But I also think more can be done. What do you guys think? I know we don't want to give, so many challenges. How about we give one challenge for the first 3 quarters? Like, regardless if it's right or wrong, we give each team 2 challenges only. We give them 1 challenge for the first 3 quarters, and every team gets 1 new challenge for the 4th. Right? That makes a lot of sense to me, right? It means, coaches don't have to be torn. They don't keep getting screwed by the officials. Should I use it now? What if I don't have it later? Just give them 2, right? 1 for the start of the game, 1 for the second half, or the final quarter. And maybe even if they get 1 in the final quarter correct, they get another one, right? I mean, that ain't going to add too much more time. I mean, again, these officials just need to be quick reviewing it as well. There's no reason they shouldn't review things in real time. I mean, soccer does it, NFL, right? You got a couple dudes that have to go to the monitor to look at things. Why ain't the dudes in Secaucus already looking at it? Get some official referees, and they can go, yep, you know what, guys, we've looked at it. Don't even need to look at it. It's a foul, right? Okay, done. 20 seconds down, we're getting on with the play. I mean, simple things, man. It's like the NBA's operating back in 2007, really. We've got all this new technology. Some of the things are real innovative. Some of the things are just, man, back in the Stone Age, right? These guys going to look at the monitors for 5 minutes. I mean, even one play last night, I think it was Breen and Wally again. I think they were frustrated. They were like, yeah, it shouldn't take this long, Dirty says, your opinion is just eliminate all challenges, better TV product. That's one other thing. I think the challenges have added something, but then, yeah, it's a slippery slope now, man, with how it's done, and yeah, now we see fans weighing in saying, Tibbs, I don't blame him if he never uses a challenge. early in the game. Uh, but I think that's kind of penalizing yourself based on somebody else's incompetence, which is hard. Sometimes a challenge that you win in the second quarter and you get the ball back, let's say, and you score a 3-pointer, that might be enough to win you a ball game sometimes as well. I think, yeah, so I think they've got to be quicker reviewing and maybe just split two challenges. Right? Regardless if you get it right or wrong, you just give them two and you keep it going. And two-man. But yeah, overtime's one of the best things about basketball, really. It's about the excitement. It's about competition. And last night, yeah, hopefully we get it replayed, man. Just 5 minutes. Christian says the refs should ask for help from crew chief and others. You know what? That makes a lot of sense as well, man. A call's made. Okay, let's convene. What do you think, crew chief? And look, a lot of power rests on one official who has only one specific view, but you're employing three referees that give you three different views and angles. So why not consult all of them and then make a final call, right? As well, because yeah, it's proven before that one guy's angle can look like something was out of bounds, or it can look like it was a foul, but the other two guys' angles says that it wasn't, as well. So, I mean, I think I'm going to predict something in the future. I think we're going to move towards some like tennis and soccer with out of bounds. I think we're going to have Hawkeye. They call it. Hawkeye will basically just be an automatic buzzer if the ball, bounces outside of the line, right? So that's just going to take that off the plate of the officials. Was it out of bounds? Was it not? Maybe I'm wrong. I think that's just the easiest thing to implement, but that's just one thing. That's just out of bounds. Saves a little bit of time. I think also what it'll help with is the 3-point shot, right? Was the guy's toe on the line? Was the guy not on the line? Maybe they could give us the 3-second count as well. Maybe they could give us a lane violation as well. I think, as technology continues to evolve, there might be more things, man. But look, not holding my breath, but if the Knicks do win this thing, it'd be great. It won't take back what was going to be a good overtime from last night. But obviously, I don't think the Knicks had any other choice, right? What do we do? Accept the loss and continue, or at least give it a chance, put in a protest. Once again, I think 12 free throws to 33 was really bad for a really physical officiated game. There's clearly 3 to 4 plays throughout the game that you watch now and you're like, that was clearly incorrect. And then you add this final, cherry on top, man, which decided the game. So it's tough. Travel says, what gets me is that they have a whole replay studio for situations like this. Yeah, you said it, man. Kind of like the VAR in soccer. There's guys in the booth looking at it, and then they'll tell the on-court, on-field officials to, what the outcome is already. Just take it out of their hands. Because, yeah, there's conclusive evidence, man. And as I said, I think the NBA just looks silly. By having a couple of minutes to look at it, game over, we go back to the locker room, and less than 30 minutes later or whatever, they're saying, sorry guys, incorrect, right? Yeah. Mr. Chill, what's up? All last second game deciding shots should be subject to review from Secaucus. If time has run out, you're not affecting the game at that point. 100%. Also, this is the easiest. The situation literally gave the league a layup by the scores being tied as well. Neither team was ahead of the other. So think about it. If the Knicks was ahead, or the Hornets or the Rockets were ahead at the time of the foul, then that opens up more outcomes, But yeah, it was just so simple, man. Right. All they're going to do is get all the league officials together and say, look, would you have called that a foul or not? I think 90% of all the officials would have said, look, scores were tied. It was a last second heave. We would have let it go. And that's what I kept thinking last night. If the roles were reversed and this game was at Madison Square Garden with the ball in Brunson's hand and he fired up the same shot, contorting his body, throwing the ball up like a shot put, and Aaron Holiday made minor contact with him, would the officials have given us 3 shots? I think there would have been a 5 to 10% chance. Right? They just don't call those, man. And I'm saying that if the roles were reversed, you know, I mean, that's how in shock we were last night, man. The referees, yeah, they clearly wanted an outcome, man. Sharp Powers, let's get it. Christian says in baseball, replay are called by replay team in the MLB Manhattan offices. Yeah. I think the NBA's fallen behind, man, in some of the things. As I said, sometimes they take too long looking at the monitors as well. Dirty saying they are making what should be most entertaining part of the games the worst part. Yeah, most def. Most def. What I don't like is they bend the rules sometimes too, man. Like, you know, inconsequential things throughout the game. They're happy to, you know, to go back, consult each other, and then change the call. Right? No team challenges anything. They just look at each other and they reverse the call or they change it. But literally on the most important decision of the whole game, right? The whole reason everybody's in the arena buying popcorn and watching the result. The exact reason everybody tunes in on the TV to see the real outcome. Oh no, but look, let's just call a foul. We don't care. We're not going to look at it. Yeah, it's completely backwards, man. LB says Dante had the same type of shot at the end of the first, and they called an offensive foul for a natural shooting motion, but then they called the defensive on Aaron. We have a case of that alone. Yeah, unfortunately, the way I see it playing out, man, I think they're not going to look at all the other calls. I think they'll look at just the final one. I think there's still a chance. We have, a great chance to get this, to be a replay. But I think it's going to, decide on the final call, and that alone. I really hope they don't bring up the fact that we didn't have a challenge, because I mean that's being petty. That's the result of the NBA just being petty, and making another enemy out of themselves, out of us. They need to treat this situation respectfully, and like I said, maybe open up to a panel, right? A jury, right? I mean, we never, when someone's going to trial, and I hate to try to compare different scenarios to real life and basketball, but whenever there's such a huge decision to be made on a specific person's welfare or future, sometimes one person, the decision is too big to make. So why not put together a panel, a panel of other referees and say, well, you know what, Jason Goebel thought this was a foul. Okay, fair enough. But Jason Goebel is 1 out of 15, or he's one of 2 officials out of 15 that wouldn't have made that a foul call. Let's go with the other officials, But nah, man, this one Jason Goebel can literally decide the outcome, which, essentially is going to, dictate the playoff seedings. I mean, we'd probably be naive to think that one or 2 games ain't going to affect playoff seeding here as well. So this is going to have huge ramifications, on the situations, at hand. Like once a Knick, always a Knick says, whether or not the refs had money or not, and I definitely feel like, anything's possible based on the past, based on betting, based on opportunities available. There's always going to be corruption in everything. But regardless of that, I think any time where one person can just affect the outcome, it's risky. And that's where I would have loved all the officials to get together and and look at it as well. But look, the league was asking for this. It was only going to be a matter of time before teams said, "Oh, look, I've had enough." Right? This was a total screw job, and you know what? We're not going to take it. Right? We're gonna file a grievance, a protest. You've given us ammunition because not only once, but twice, you've come out and said that was incorrect right after the game, which would have just made those players and coaches and everybody even more frustrated. Think about it. You're already frustrated. You've just finished. You're tired. You're sweaty. You've lost your third game in a row. You're playing short-handed. You're banged up. And after the buzzer you got screwed. And then 30 minutes later, the league basically confirms that yeah, you were screwed. And then the next day, the last 2-minute report comes out and says, yeah, you know what? You were screwed again. And we're just going to admit that we made a mistake. And you have to deal with it. No other place in the world, no other workforce, no other business, no other place would that fly without any kind of consequence. Right? If you're a customer, you bought a faulty product, you get a refund, man. In this case, both teams should get a refund. Fans should be able to watch the game again, and we get to see the real outcome as well. We've also seen the same thing in combat sports, boxing, whatever. If a fight was, wrongly adjudicated, or at sometimes, if there was a disqualification or whatever, what do? We do a rematch, right? Tyson versus Holyfield. They get back in the ring again, man. We don't let this outcome just be the decider as well. And as long as these players can suit up again, then why not? Mr. Chill says, Windhorst also said the same ref made a similar game-deciding mistake. Yep. That was last year, fam, on LeBron James, on the hacked layup as well by Jason Tatum. Yeah, as well. So that's what it is, fam. We'll continue to refresh. We'll see what people are saying. Any other news? So I'm guessing Devo is going to sit out. I'm going to assume that Hartenstein doesn't come back for that last game as well. So I do think it'll be a Jalen Brunson. It'll be a possibly Alec Burks at the 2. Hart at the 3. Probably Precious and Jericho Sims again. I don't know if Tibbs has gone with that for 2 games running. I think he will likely keep it the same, although I do hope he changes it and puts Bogdanovic in the starting unit. But that is what I think the starting 5 will be tomorrow night. We'll be live post-game. I think it'll be Brunson, Burks, Hart, Precious, and Sims. And then you've got Deuce, you've got Bogdanovic, and you've got Taj Gibson as a 3. Yeah, as 3 backups. 8-man rotation. If he's not going to play Jacob Toppin or Charlie Brown. So yeah, look out for the minutes police tomorrow night, man. If we do go for another 8-man rotation, it's going to be heavy minutes. But sitting DiVincenzo obviously makes sense, right? You're not going to play him one game before an All-Star break if he's got a sore hamstring. What's the point? Isaiah Hartenstein as well. You've sat him all this time, even if he is questionable, which is kind of, I don't know why the Knicks just don't say he's out. But yeah, anyway, they've got him as questionable. But I don't think it's likely that Isaiah plays either, fam. So yeah, it's going to be a really tight game. They've got a lot of players, obviously good players, with Franz Wagner playing well, Paolo. The Knicks have a 4.5 game lead on the Orlando Magic. So it's going to be it's going to be a big game for them on their home floor as well, right? The Knicks will be banged up, but they'll be fired up, as I know. We have some comments from Chris Mannix, Sports Illustrated. Chris says, Bobby's right. Knicks have a legit gripe, but referees didn't misapply a rule, which is grounds for winning an appeal. Referees blew the call, which unfortunately for New York probably isn't enough for the league to change the outcome. See, I understand what these guys are saying. What I think they're losing the fact is that the scores were level when the questionable, incorrect call was made. Right. So there's no harm in just doing an overtime replay. Right. You don't need to award the game to one team or the other based on an incorrect call. The whole situation is that we need to go to overtime. Right. So that's the outcome on it, man. Mr. Chill says, best case scenario, we win, and we have to get the teams together to play OT. The Knicks are at full strength by then, and we destroy the Rockets. Yep, definitely, man. Best case, I think. But as far as I'm concerned, we already did what we needed to do, which is, we put it back to them, and at least we did the right thing, man, because we were wronged. I believe if you are wronged, you don't just do nothing, no matter how small the chances are, because you just never know. You just never know. But yeah, am I holding my breath? Probably not, man. As I say, I think our best chance is the fact that the scores were tied when the incorrect call was made, and we basically, the league understands that this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to do something that hasn't been done in a long, long time. It's been 2007. Normally rules are meant to be broken, but this ain't even a rule that's going to get broken. They already did a replay with Shaquille O'Neal fouling out incorrectly back in 2007. So if you think about it now, it's been like 15, 18 years since then. It's been a long, long time. This has been due. There's been so many mistakes, and I think the Knicks, the fact that all we have to do is go to overtime, it'll be a whole new spectacle. Everybody will be tuned in. We get the best outcome. Obviously, the Rockets will push back. In terms of those saying, like Bobby saying, we'll open up Pandora's box. Well, again, he's choosing to ignore the circumstance. Not every circumstance is the same, right? This was a final buzzer-beating shot. Right, it ain't rocket science. It ain't a call with 2 minutes remaining in a game that maybe inevitably decided the game, but there was still 2 minutes running. You can't do a replay in that instance because there was still 2 minutes of live action after the mistake. Right, so the game could have changed a million different ways. But the unique situation with this circumstance is that it was the final shot. Right, and that was it. The scores were tied. So it's literally a layup for the NBA to do something. As I said, it could be a nice promotion. It could be, a situation where the best outcome comes in, and it maybe it does open a precedent where other teams can file a protest and win. But that's the whole purpose of the thing, man. If you're aggrieved, your aim should be to get the best outcome. And if this was the Spurs versus the Wizards tomorrow night and the same thing happens, then the exact same, reaction should happen as well. Right? This ain't any different because it's the New York Knicks, right? This was the incorrect call, final end of the game. Imagine if this was a playoff game, a finals game. I mean, the league got to take this opportunity to humble itself, to improve its process, learn about its employees, learn about officiating, educating the officiating as well. And I think there's benefit from that. If you continue to disrespect the fans, continue to disrespect the paying customers, the players involved, the coaches, uh, the broadcasters as well that lost money, the advertisers that lost money, uh, and then you come out and you apologize, not even. You admit that it was a mistake and that was it. Like I said, man, no other business in the world can operate like that. Uh, you know what I mean? I would love to just be able to come out and apologize and that's it, and no consequence, right? But that don't happen no more. Like I said, fans will start tuning out. It's really been a bad season, officiating wise. It's been a bad season for defense as well. If you're a fan of, players putting up 70, that's cool. I get it. But 70 ain't going to become 70 anymore. If you see the next guy putting up 70, you see the role players putting up 50, that changes everything. And then obviously defensively, right, it's already unwatchable on certain nights. You see Indiana travel, carry the ball, put up 150 a night. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't enjoy that. You know, people putting up 150 doesn't mean that it's great offense. You know what I mean? It's boring, because the other team was letting them score so easily, which makes it seem like scoring ain't that special. You know what I mean? The thing about putting up a lot of points is it was special because it should be difficult to put up points, right? It should not be easy. Otherwise, everybody can do it. What is the number one reason the All-Star game has tanked over the years as well? Because nobody gives a rat's ass about it. Basically, it's five guys on each side sitting around like a mannequin, letting the other team, shoot. And that's it. It's just a practice game, a scrimmage, not even. And nobody really cares about that anymore, the game itself. So a lot of the NBA games are becoming that way, where referees aren't calling anything. They're just letting, the game continue, and we're seeing 150 points, man. We've never really seen that before. Bricks Nation in the building, salute. I blame this loss on Tibbs for not keeping his challenges until when it matters for the last 2 minutes. Yeah, I respect your opinion. I think, there's multiple ways to look at it. He thought there was, a justification in challenging an earlier call. I feel it's unfair to penalise yourself by ignoring a wrong call early in the game just to save the challenge. But you're right, in essence, if he had a challenge to end the game, we would have had a chance. But I think all of that falls on the NBA. I think it's penalising, the product, I think. Chivor TV, salute. The Knicks owner should ban all the refs that work at this game from ever working Knicks games again. Better solution. That would really change a lot, man. If a specific team put a request in that this referee never officiate our games again, that would be something. That would really cause a ripple effect. Obviously, they'd need more evidence. If there's some betting history, look out. And look, we know the Knicks are good at putting together cases, information. They're going through a legal battle with the Raptors. Not on the best of terms with the NBA. Dare I say that this protest and making the league, or forcing the league's hand, dare I say that that's not going to improve the relationships between the thing. But you know what? I mean, like I said, it is what it is. The Knicks fan base, we caused a lot of attention last night, and I'm proud because people that normally would not look twice at a game between the Rockets and the Knicks, it got people talking. It really did get people talking about this game. Media people and casuals even that I never see talk about the Knicks started to pick it up, and I think by us putting pressure on the league, and them kind of setting themselves up to fail as well with the 2 minute report, the transparency method that they use. I think it was only going to be a matter of time, man. It was only something was going to catch up to them. Once again, this ain't about the Knicks to me. This ain't about the Rockets. It's about two teams and the incorrect outcome. Right. This could literally happen tomorrow night. The exact same thing between two other teams, right? And it does happen. But the difference is that this was a really, really poorly officiated game on top of the final deciding call, on top of the league admitting that the call was a mistake. Yeah, and I think a lot of those things combined does create anarchy, basically, which is what we're getting, man. This is only going to create more aggro between the players and the officials, right? If I'm Brunson for the rest of the season now, if I'm Precious Achua, if I'm Josh Hart, man, Lord knows if Julius Randle was playing last night. I actually said this on the post game, that Julius Randle would have got into something last night if he was playing in that game. And what I mean by that is he would have got frustrated. He would have either got a tee, or he would have checked Dylan Brooks, or he would have done his usual, got into it with the referees. Something would have happened the way the game was officiated last night, with the physical nature that Julius plays with, and he draws a lot of contact as well. But yeah, back to my point, I think the players will have lost faith in the officials after last night. I mean, how could you not? It was not called the same way, right? Josh Hart was being decapitated. Brunson was being leveled on the floor like an NFL game. Meanwhile, Dylan Brooks was able to do certain things. It was literally, last night was the definition of home cooking. And we saw Jalen Brunson, have to get restrained, as well. So that says a lot. I would have just taken a fine if I was Tibbs as well. Yeah, as Chivor says, the team lost fans, sports, betters. Yep. Bricks Nation says you can count on refs screwing calls up. So that's why you must keep your challenges. So that's getting ahead of the curve. I get your point, man. Definitely. You know that the refs are going to blow calls. So yeah, you keep... I think Tibbs actually started that way. I don't know if an assistant had a word to him, but I did notice a trend. I did notice a shift, a change in Tibbs's thoughts, regarding challenges. He did like to really refrain from using challenges early the last few seasons, but I did notice a change recently. But yeah, look, there's no doubt the most important calls are later in the game. You could deal with a couple of blown calls, throughout the game, and you still have a chance to change the outcome. But unfortunately, last night we were basically screwed at the end. Knicks fans are most diehard in the NBA. We support win or lose. Yeah, most def. I think on top of the league's accuracy issue with the officials, I think there's an issue with the respect. You see it. They're losing faith, the players, because it's so unfair, and it's dangerous, too. You only have to tune in night to night. The other night was Jaylen Brown getting into it with Duncan Robinson, that one where the arms got tangled, and then they got into it as well. And I've tweeted this in the archives, but Ed Malloy's crew, the way the style of he officiates games is he likes to let it go, but he lets too much go early, and then he's inconsistent. He changes later in the game and then starts calling fouls, when it gets out of control. And Ed Malloy's been doing that for a long time. I got tweets basically every season tweeting stuff. I got to go back to check the last game he did against the Knicks, with the Knicks, but I vividly remember tweeting stuff out. So, there's something needs to be investigated, whether it's the style of officiating they do. Last night was by far the most physical Knicks game that I've watched this season. And then we get that outcome, towards the end. So yeah, I think a lot of it just does not add up, man. But yeah, look, this thing was brewing, and I'm glad. I am glad that we have gone down this path. Am I holding my breath? No, But look, the people speak up, and we get more attention on this thing, right? If we can cause a movement, we could create some better change. Then at least something good can come out of it, man. Right? I hate for this, even if we do end up taking the loss still, and we don't get a replay, at least maybe they're going to look at it in the future and try to be more consistent with those final shots, man. That's the biggest problem I got. The rest of the game, right, we can't go back and change every call. But the final call changed the outcome. And the way I see it is almost every night in the NBA, we see a buzzer-beating heave, even at the end of the half or at the end of the first quarter. And maybe 20% of the time there's contact on those heaves. And then the ratio to calling it as a foul is probably 1%. They just don't call a foul on those heaves, right, despite, marginal contact. Okay, so we got a full story from Adrian Wojnarowski now. We'll go through it. So the Knicks decided to file Tuesday evening, highlighting the NBA's last 2-minute report, and the game crew chief Ed Malloy, acknowledging that the foul call on the Knicks guard Brunson in the final seconds was incorrect. Holiday made 2 free throws less than a second on the clock and intentionally missed the third to run out the clock with 0.3 seconds remaining. Right. The Knicks and Rockets aren't scheduled to play again, but the hope of the protest is to either pick up a tie game at the start of overtime or somehow remedy the Knicks without a loss. Okay. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. There's possibly a couple of outcomes that I hadn't really thought of. So one of them is to possibly pick up the game again, play overtime, or maybe as a consolation, which is to not give the Knicks a loss. Right. Maybe they give the Rockets a win, but we don't get a loss. Well, that could help us, I guess, in the standings, if we don't take a loss. But nevertheless, Woj says a protest must prove a misapplication of a rule, not simply a missed call. Okay. So for the protest to be successful, the Knicks have to apply a misapplication of a rule and not just simply the missed call. The Knicks, who have lost 3 straight games, have been hit hard with injuries, like we know. Only 6 protests in league history have been upheld. The NBA has not often upheld protests in its history. The last one, as we go back in 2007, man. So there we go. As Shams is saying, Kawhi's out tonight with a left abductor strain. So fans saying that the game deserves a 48-minute report. Man, that would need to be a book, an encyclopedia of poor calls. The Knicks have been on the wrong end of a lot of bad calls as well, as the Knicks have 4 players averaging 39 plus minutes a game, right? There are 4 players currently averaging 39 plus minutes, and the Knicks have 3 of them. Look, we're banged up, but there's some good news, right? We've got to start to talk about some positives, which is, there's a chance, we get this replayed, or we don't get a loss in the record at least. But the positives coming is that Julius Randle now is really starting to progress and is ticking all the boxes to a potential earlier return. due to his fitness, his strength, yeah, and physical abilities. So Julius Randle is really starting to come along in the rehabilitation. Could there be a chance he returns just after All-Star break? It's looking a real possibility now, fam, which we need to be excited about, fam. We have Orlando, of course, away, and then one more road trip after the All-Star break next Thursday to Philly. Boy, is that one going to be huge. That could be one of our final games against Philly, and that could have a huge outcome in and where each team finishes in the tiebreaker. So I'm going to expect Isaiah Hartenstein to at least be back, fam. And I'm going to assume that we're going to have DiVincenzo available as well. So yeah, for tomorrow night, I expect DiVincenzo and Isaiah to both be out. I think that makes sense, man. But do we have enough to win the ball game? I still think so. I think a lineup of Brunson, whether you want to put Hart at the 2, Bogdanovic at the 3, that's a possibility. But I think Tibbs will probably go with Bronny. He'll probably go with Alec Burks at the 2. He'll continue to start Hart. And then probably Precious and Sims. Is there a chance he put Burks and Bogdanovic in the starting unit? I don't think he'll go that way. I think he'll need that player coming off the bench to give us some scoring. So you really got to assume it's either one of Burks or a Bogey that comes into the starting lineup. Just given the fact that DiVincenzo's at the 2, I think the Alec Burks role, it kind of fits straight into that. And we still have Bogdanovic, Deuce McBride, and Taj Gibson still available coming off our bench. Deuce and Bogdanovic can give us some scoring. Taj can give the big man a breather. And then there's still Jacob Toppin, Charlie Brown, I think, as possible guys. Although, if I'm guessing, I think he'll still rock with an 8-man rotation, man, with Tibbs as well. Chivor says, TV says, meant to say multiple people lost in this. Yeah, the team, the fans, and the sports bettors as well. Yeah, definitely. I think just keeping it about the sport as well. I think the officials are just hurting themselves because there's going to be less trust and less faith in the players, right? And they continue to complain that players complain too much. Well, it's difficult to ask the competitors to stop complaining when the calls are continuously wrong. I mean, it's like asking, it's like asking a normal person to be unhappy. It's like asking a normal person to be, to live with a bad outcome. It's not going to happen. I think these guys are going to continue to be frustrated as long as the referees continue to be bad or inconsistent, right? A player needs to know what they can get away with on the court. And what I see as a Knicks fan, every game's different, man. I mean, like, 2 big calls last night was Taj Gibson's charge was called a block, right? Regardless of the feet, he was stationary. He wasn't really moving to either side. And the guy just barreled straight into the front of Taj. That was a charge. And then, the blocking foul on Brunson, people say, again, his feet wasn't set. We spoke to Coach Nick, B-Ball Breakdown. He didn't like that call either. We're going to have Coach Nick, B-Ball Breakdown on Thursday as well. We'll do a live show Thursday night, tomorrow night, post-game as well. More guests coming up during the All-Star break, more conversations. Yeah, but I think, those were 2 calls that were really wrong. Brunson, was charged into with a non-basketball play. And I think Julius Randle has actually been called, for that, this season, man. Eddie F, salute. Macri made a good point. The players on both sides were denied OT and a chance to play more to see it through. Yeah, 100% most def. And I think the league is, if they do deny this protest, I think they're missing a layup. I think this is a real layup for the NBA because the scores were tied, and all you have to do is just to play it overtime. I think that's fair, right? Every situation should be looked at differently, right? And everyone that's trying to kind of squash this and saying, "Oh, look, it's going to open up, a case for all these teams to protest," then I would ask them to show me a scenario that's exactly the same as this, right? Where a call was made on the final second, right? That doesn't happen all the time. I'm not talking about a call with 2 minutes remaining. That was a wrong call. Yeah, you still have a real grievance with that, but that didn't decide the outcome because there was still 2 minutes left. But if you can show me a call that was made on a player fouling, the offensive player shooting a heave, then I would agree with them. I would say, okay, this deserves to be looked at the same. But the truth is, this is different. We haven't seen many cases like this before. As well as taking into account the incorrect admission and the bad officiated game as well. But yeah, I think one key lesson which you guys have been highlighting, and a lot of Knicks fans saying the same thing, man. C Mac says Tibbs got to start saving these challenges for the fourth quarter, especially in the playoffs. Yeah, I would agree with that now. I think obviously it's a tough break, but you got to adjust your habits based on the foul play of the refs, the incompetency. It's frustrating, but yeah, I think challenging a call in the first 3 quarters now. We're going to continue to see so many bad calls. You just have to live with it. You have to save the challenge now. Yeah, for late in the game, right? Literally a call that could decide the game now. And we know these referees. Some of them are brought up in Miami. Some of them maybe follow different teams, right? I'm not going to play investigator, but I do believe where there's smoke, there's fire. I believe it's naive to believe that there's no corruption. I think there's too much to gain with betting now. There's too much to gain from people's hatred of situations. I think, as people have admitted, referees don't become referees just because they're fans of the game. I saw an article, an interview with somebody on Tony Brothers, another referee that people don't really agree with a lot. Tony Brothers became an official just as a job. He wanted to become a judge, initially, and now he likes being an official. He was led down that path. But yeah, that's just an example that these officials don't always have the best interests in mind when it comes to the best outcome, when it becomes related to two teams. So yeah, you gotta keep your guard up, man, and look out for yourself. Yeah, and we continue to deal with BS calls, but that doesn't mean that we should continue to live with that. You know what I mean? I think I'll be happy if we either get the protest, of course, successful, we can play outcome overtime, or we don't get a loss in the standings, because this is going to hurt our chances in terms of the seeding. Right, it might come down to literally one win or one loss. Yeah, and I think we were denied of that chance to win this ball game. Right, so at least if we don't take a loss in the win-loss column, and we end up playing, the standings will have only 81 games, I guess. Yeah, and whatever our win percentage is going to be, I think at that point, man. Yeah, like I said, as LB says, yeah, Goebel was brought up in Miami. Yeah, and I don't know the guy personally, but I'm not just going to use him as an example. I try not to make it too personal, but obviously, these are real people. They do a job. But all I'm saying is that it's naive to think that all of them, just are just purists, and they just want the best result. They want, they do it fairly, because we've seen in the past, there's crookedness everywhere, basically, in all aspects of life, not just basketball. But yeah, you have to look out for yourself. I think the players, Jalen Brunson is an all-star now. He has been officiated really, really poorly. Really, really poorly for a player of his stature, a player of his ability as well. I mean, as I said, man, if the roles were reversed, Aaron Holiday is a journeyman, a role player. Jalen Brunson is literally a star in the NBA now. And he gets called the foul on Aaron Holiday. But if the roles were reversed at MSG even, and Brunson was shooting a game-winning heave, right? He's been tunneled so many times, he's been whacked, he's been hit, and he still doesn't even get a call, right? There's no way Brunson would have got called, been called and given free throws if it was the final heave that he was taking as well. So yeah, that just really eats at me. But let's move on. We will wait to see the outcome. Obviously, this is going to continue to be a story, but we continue to fight, man, like we always do. Short-handed, the streets are buzzing. One more game, then we have All-Star break, and I'm honestly happy for the players, because, I mean, you know how you feel when you get that vacay coming off work. You've been busting your ass, you've been playing hard or working hard. These guys can finally take a few days. Some of them might get away. Cancun, maybe, somewhere warm. Take their mind off it. I think in the interest of Hartenstein, Devo, Jalen Brunson, of course, but Randall. These guys are going to really heal up. OG. And the thing with OG and Randall's injury, their legs are actually getting rested. It's the shoulder and it's the elbow that's recovering. So I think we're going to be hot to end the season once we get everybody back, and it'll be buzzing at that point, man. Salute to everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. But yeah, a lot of you were spitting knowledge on fire as well. Knicks Nation really showed out last night in Texas, also on the road, but letting their thoughts know about this situation online, forcing the issue as we do after we've been screwed. And we move ahead. Hopefully we'll pull off a feel-good win to end this period against Orlando. That game is going to be hot, man. I'll see you then, post-game live tomorrow night. Peace.